meetings law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advanced notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Belvidere Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted with the Star Ledger and Express Times and submitted to the town clerk of the town of Belvidere on April 13th, 2020. Due to the public health emergency in the state of New Jersey, as declared in Executive Order 103, the board will be holding this meeting virtually and suspending some of its normal procedures this evening. Specifically, board members will be participating in the meeting virtually via Zoom. In addition, the virtual meeting will only be live streamed for members of the public. Directions for accessing the live stream were posted on the district website, www.belvideresd.org. We very much welcome input from the public, but because this meeting is being live streamed, public comment will be handled as follows. The public can email comments to be read during public participation to rtjalma@belvideresd.org. Public comment on agenda items need to be received by 7:15 p.m. and have public participation number 1 in the subject line. Public comment that is not related to the agenda items need to be received by 7:45 p.m. and have public participation number 2 in the subject line. Resolution. I need a motion and a second to pursue it.
Motion.
Second. Pursuant to bylaw 9310 to suspend certain meeting procedures as described in the notice of meeting, specifically to authorize board members to participate in the meeting virtually and limit the meeting to a live stream with public comment to be handled as detailed in the meeting notice. So we had a motion and a second, so I guess we're...
Hey, get out of there.
All right, so we're going to go to a flag salute. We talked about not...
All in favor?
Hey.
For the motion, all in favor?
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Thank you for reminding me. We had tossed around not doing a flag salute, so this is going to look kind of corny, but I really thought we should do a flag salute. So go ahead, Chris. If we can all sit or stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America,
to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So corny, but I thought we still needed to do that. All right, so roll call.
Mr. Blum?
Here.
Mrs. Patino? Mrs. Costantino? Here. Dr. Zuppeth? Dr. Zuppeth?
Here.
Mrs. Duckworth? Here. Mr. LeVar?
Here.
Mr. Lucas?
Here.
Mrs. Pell?
Here.
Mrs. Scott? Here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mrs. Steffen?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Okay, since we are leaving the public participation open via email till 7:15, we're going to change the beginning of the agenda up just a tiny bit. So we're going to push public participation to just before we start looking at the agenda items, which will give us correspondence, superintendent's report, and the budget presentation first. So do we have any correspondence?
None.
Chris, your superintendent's report.
Okay, before I begin the budget presentation, I just want to take a minute. First of all, to thank a few people as we have moved into I think we're on week 7 now of our virtual instruction. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take a few minutes to just really start by thanking the teaching staff of both Belvidere High School and Belvidere Elementary. I think the teachers have really done an outstanding job, really keeping the process of education moving, keeping it moving even through such uncertain times where one minute it looks like we're going to close for the rest of the school year, one minute it looks like we're going to come back in May, one minute it looks like we're going to come back in June. I think there's so much uncertainty, and I think our staff has done a tremendous job keeping it going and keeping our kids engaged as best they can given the circumstances. I think really I want to thank them and let them know how much I appreciate them. There's been a lot of great things going on. I know I saw a few when we did the parade around town, which seems like forever ago by now. We saw a lot of kids out there, and it was just great to see everybody. But even just little things like that, I think taking time to organize was really great. Also like to take a moment to thank Donna Golden and Sue March specifically. for their almost tireless work right now between making sure our kids are getting their food when it's distributed, making sure that the kids are getting wellness checks. And both of them have volunteered and are working with the county. Last check, Sue March was actually working over at Tech doing the testing, and Donna Golda was reaching out to patients for results and things like that. So their job has grown exponentially since the shutdown. So I do thank them. They did an outstanding job. Mr. Barrick and his custodial staff keeping the building as clean and as sanitized as possible. We haven't had kids in the building in a while, but they're going through it every day on a daily basis to make sure that everything is staying clean and staying sanitized. So thanks to them. I want to mention that Shelley has put in a tremendous effort over the last couple of weeks getting these budgets together in a tremendously uncertain time. We just had our finance meeting and even just not even sure how we're really presenting a budget at this point, given all the uncertainty with the states. But thanks to her, and then finally to the administrative team, Mr. Lazare, Mr. Carabinas, Ms. McKinney, Mr. Bartow, just for being the rocks and working with the teaching staff and making sure the kids have what they need. And it's not been easy for anyone, and I just appreciate everybody's efforts. So I wanted to start by thanking everyone with that. As we've been kind of talking about, there's still no update from the commissioner and the governor as to the shutdown, if it's extending beyond May 15th at this point. I would guess that we're going to not come back this year, but there has definitely been some more rumors about a June 1st return date. I've heard a lot of that over the last couple of days. And then the last thing before I go into my budget presentation is just to mention, I know this question comes up quite a bit, is our snow days and what we're going to do with the snow days if we don't come back. If we are not coming back and we're going to be virtual setting from now until the end of the school year, we will just end our school year 2 days earlier. We'll finish up on June 10th rather than June 12th. If we are coming back, I think we're going to need at least one of those days to have a day for the staff to come back and get things organized before the kids come back. So we've spent a lot of time trying to figure out graduations and 8th grade commencement and all those end of the year activities. And as soon as we get a little more direction as to how we're going to end the year, we'll start sharing out what our game plan is. So again, just thanks to everyone and their hard work and their dedication in this crazy time that we've been living through over the last bunch of weeks. So I don't know if you have any questions, or you want me just to go right into the presentation, or you want to do your public participation? What do you want to do, Mary Ann?
No, go ahead, finish your superintendent's report, do your budget presentation.
Okay.
Because we still have 3 minutes before public participation, so not that you're on a time slot.
Hang on one second, I gotta. I had it all set up and then I messed it up when I was trying to share the stuff from Shelley's meeting. Okay, hang on one second. Okay, everybody should be able to see the budget presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously this is going to be a little bit more streamlined than we usually do, because just given the circumstances. So Shelley and I thought it'd be best just to pretty much cut to the chase and get right to the proposed budget. So here we go. So you can see this is starting out with our student enrollment projections. This is pre-K to 6 for next year. You can kind of just run down pre-K. We have projected 28, kindergarten 17, first grade 11, second grade 27, and then all the way down to 26th in 6th grade. 7th 24, and 8th 43 for a projected total of just under 250 in Belvidere Elementary at 249. And you can see some pretty consistent numbers in the high school at the moment: 91, 92, 93, 93 for a projection of 369 students in the high school. And you can also, if you have this, you can see the trends over the last 5 years. So starting in 16, 17, and then the projections for next year, and see how we have dropped in quite a few spots, although in Belvidere Elementary, we're pretty consistent, although we're down from last year. Our general budget, the general fund, again this year, our proposal for the budget is a budget of $11,805,101. That's down $210,869 from last year's budget. So for the net change, it's a 1.75 reduction. 1.75 reduction. And you can see our special revenue budgets, 573, 517 funded by ESSA, which is Every Student Succeeds Act. Mr. Smith, I know you hate these acronyms, in our IDEA grants, and includes our state funds for preschool, so an increase of $21,357. You can see our sending district tuition, tops the chart at 4.3 million. Local tax levy this coming year is 3.8. State aid is 3.012. Miscellaneous, and then the fund balance moves over, and that gets us a total of 11,805,101. The revenue, as you can see, it's a decrease in local tax of 0.26%. Our tax rate is $3.03 on 100. You can have the two in there for a little bit more. Our increase for the state aid is a total of $61,567. And again, our state aid, at least the projections as of right now, and I know that's probably one of the biggest unknowns is what state aid is going to look like if it's going to stay, is for just a little over $3 million. We have a net decrease in tuition of a little over $500,000. The $450,000 decrease in tuition due to 28 less students at Belvidere High School, and it is partially offset. We are jumping our tuition from $16,100 to $16,900 per student. There's also a decrease of almost $500,000 in the prior year tuition adjustment. Again, that's the money that's going back to the sending districts, and it has a lot to do with the numbers that were projected when we did the budgeting 2 years ago. And then our resource program at the high school with a decrease of $20,000. Stuck for some reason, not moving along. Okay, there we go. Did I skip it? Yeah, I skipped it, okay. Personnel, okay. So in personnel, we have reduction in force of 1 full-time custodian, 1 full-time administrative assistant. We are combining our woodshop course at the high school and our engineering course to 1 engineering track that will cover both of those, and 2 part-time aides. We are increasing our middle school counselor from 40% to full-time, and I'm proposing the addition of the director of innovation position. Curriculum upgrades. As passed out at the last meeting, we have the new elective pathways for students, the social media marketing broadcast journalism pathway, computer program and design pathway, and economics and finance pathway. And we are redesigning, as I mentioned in the last slide, the engineering and construction technology pathway. And we're hoping that's going to draw more students into the high school. Some of the courses that are there, we think are courses that students are turning to Tech for because we weren't offering them previously, so hopefully we'll be able to regain some of our students. The last 2 things with curriculum, as we talked about with the meeting with Dr. Zwicky back in January, we're going to continue to pursue our relationship with Linkit for the data warehousing. That's actually going to be very important for us when we come back, well, assuming we don't come back until September, because they'll be able to put some benchmark assessments together for us very quickly to get a sense of where our students are at. And then, as you have seen now, hopefully, Rubicon Atlas for our curriculum warehousing and our online access, and how we've been able to get our curriculum updated and put online and very easy to read and accessibility. Shelley, you want to jump in?
This is giving us just the overview of where our budget expenditures lie. So the bulk of our costs are in our regular education with 34%, and our employee benefits is 20% of the pie, and the special education 13%, which is similar to operations and maintenance. This is pretty similar to year over year how our costs are allocated out. And this last slide, we added it in last year, basically just to show you how the tax number has gone over the last 10 years, but along with that, how our general fund budget has gone over those 10 years. And it basically shows you that in 10 years, we've actually decreased our general fund budget by almost $100,000. So we've been trying to keep the budget intact the best that we can for the taxpayers. This last slide we added last minute. And it has to do with exactly what it says at the top, making some changes to the preliminary budget due to the uncertainty of our 2021 state aid. The Finance Committee is aware, there's some concerns out there that reserves may be withheld, similar to how they were about 12 years ago, since the state may not have the money to fund the 2021 state aid that's already been allocated. So basically, to try to make our best effort to conserve our reserve balances that we've been saving for specific purposes, we're proposing that we make a couple last-minute withdrawals from our reserve balances, and then we put them in our 2021 budget. They can be redeposited or reallocated for the budgets as we had originally planned. We're planning to increase the maintenance reserve withdrawal from $300,000 up to $455,000, and we had an allocation of $100,000 to put into capital reserve. We're going to hold off on putting that into the capital reserve balance and instead hold it within our 2021 balance to put in hopefully in 2021, 22, if the environment is more stable at that time. The last reserve balance we have is our capital reserve, which has a $65,000 balance, and we're looking to draw that down to hopefully do a science lab ventilation and upgrade project, if that's possible in the 2021 budget. And if we don't, then that money again could be reallocated back to reserve.
Shelley, did you see my, oh, I can't talk, never mind.
Okay, and that's it. Thank you for your support. And we can answer any questions if you want right now, or go to public participation, whatever you think is easiest, man.
Oh, let's continue on. Obviously, Catherine has a question, but other people may as well, and when that's complete, then we'll go to public participation.
Let's go ahead.
Catherine, to answer your question, yes, I did. I want to apologize for me looking down quite a bit. I'm actually trying to juggle our public participation emails and questions at the same time as looking at the meeting. So that's what I'm doing, if it looks odd. Catherine did send a question asking why we can't allocate. So I guess at the finance meeting, what I discussed is when we are going to allocate these reserves down into the 2021 budget, I have to put them on certain line items. And her question is why we have to allocate them in the budget at all. And the reason for that is we have to have our revenues equal to our expenditures. So if I'm going to increase the revenue side by withdrawal from my reserve, I have to offset it in the expenditure side. And the reason I have to pick some account that put that in, I can't, at this point in time, there's no line throughout the year called budgeted fund balance, which I think is what you're referring to. That's something that we would put it in the next budget cycle. But it's
that's what I'm asking. I'm asking why we can't move the account from that one reserve account into this other suggested account that you had mentioned in the finance meeting, which we could do next year. Why can't we just do that this year and not have to allocate the money in the budget? I'm still a little concerned about the money getting spent throughout the year, and I'm not quite sure like how we even really, being only a year on the board, how we typically monitor some of the expenditures throughout. I mean, like you monitor all the expenditures throughout the year, but how can the board be ensured that the money won't be spent throughout the year?
Well, the board every month gets a copy of the secretary's report, and that has all the expenditures listed in it. So you would be able to see there that the funds are still available each month if you wanted to track it as well.
Okay, where's the secretary's report?
It's in your board packet every month. And it gives you the financials for the previous month.
Okay, so every month we would be able to see the balances in those accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't move that money from the one reserves account into that other one that you're talking about next year.
The account that I just tried to explain, it's called budgeted fund balance, and that's where we allocate, it's a revenue source, but we can only put money in there during the budget time. It's not a regular line item account that's used throughout the year.
Okay, so it can't be done now is the answer then?
Correct.
Okay. When we talked about, I had another question, just to follow up from finance, about what project you were doing. It was just the science, right?
we're talking about right now, with the capital reserve withdrawal, yeah, we were just putting all of it towards 65,000 for a science lab ventilation upgrade.
And then the rest was allocated how we discussed.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Shelley or Chris?
Marianne, can I make one more comment?
Absolutely.
Not related to the budget. I feel remiss because I didn't mention that Mr. Welsh has submitted his retirement.
Oh, yes.
I know it's number one on the personnel committee, but I just want to take a moment, and if Mr. Welsh is watching, he's probably mad at me for doing this, but I want to take a moment to thank him for his 35 years of service. Mike has been an outstanding employee. I've known Mike for 10 years, and I certainly think the world of him, and I know many of our kids will certainly miss him as he's gone. He spent this past year working predominantly in Hope with the child study team restructuring. Mike will be missed. He's had a tremendous impact on our students in a very, very positive way. And I do want to take a moment to thank him for his 35 years of service to the district.
I would like to reiterate that as well, and I actually did have personal experience with him with one of my children. He is a phenomenal OT, I think he had at that time with CJ. So, yeah, thanks, Mike. You've done a great job for us. Okay, so we're going to go to public participation now, then, if nobody has anything else. All right, Shell, it's all yours.
Okay, the first email that I received for public participation, this email is from Judy Black, the B.E.A. president. I see on tonight's agenda under personnel item number 4, you are voting to approve a new administrative position, the Director of Innovation and Special Projects. I also see under personnel item number 10 that you are cutting the teaching hours of a tenured phys ed teacher who has been with the district for 14 years to 60% and taking away her family's health benefits. Under personnel item number 9, you are eliminating a tenured secretary at the high school main office. And under personnel item number 12, that you are eliminating a custodian position when the need to sanitize our schools has become essential work that will keep us all safe. I would think these cuts are all because there is not enough money in the budget to sustain these positions. Considering you are reducing the hours of a phys ed teacher, eliminating a secretary, and eliminating a custodial position, is the new administrative position to be salaried? And if so, how can you justify more taxpayer money spent on administration when you're cutting staff that teaches our students and keep our schools running smoothly and safely? Thank you. The next one is from John Owens. He asked that I read, given the current situation and online education, this cannot be said in person, but I'd like to thank Michael Welsh for his dedication and efforts with the child study team and helping countless students over the years, and to congratulate him on his retirement. Thanks, Mike. Mr. Owens also sent a second email, which I believe he wants me to read. So I will do so at this point. Given the delay between the board meeting and the streaming video reaching audiences, how is the board planning to ensure openness and public participation at the end of the meeting? The delay caused a number of emailed public participation concerns to be overlooked at the March 18th meeting. I did respond to Mr. Owens and stated that we were asking for public participation questions for the second public participations we received by 7:45 p.m. So they could be sent a little earlier to avoid a time lapse issue.
Also, Shell, the second participation items have nothing to do with the agenda, so they should be able to send them now if they want anything in second public participation.
Right. So I think he understood that. He did give me a heads up that he didn't think that the meeting was live streaming yet at that point, but I have confirmed with Eric that it was on a 5-minute delay, but we are all up and running at this point. The next public participation number 1 that I received this is from, well, it's sent from Kathy Myers, but it's signed Joseph Kennedy, Mayor of the town of Belvidere, so we'll take it from the town. Does Number 1, agenda item number 4, explain the job description for the position of Director of Innovation and Special Projects. Is it a stipend position and has it been filled? Number 2, agenda item number 6, explain the position of Academic Behavior Coach and the reason for filling it in the 2019-20 school year. There are no salaries or stipends included on the agenda. Are these positions being funded from the current budget? Number 3, agenda item number 20, is there a cost to the district to run the summer camp? Is the Work-Family Connection paying the district rent for the facilities? Number 4, agenda item number 24, the budget line item transfers were not attached. Can these be provided? And then a follow-up, I believe should be added to this list, is agenda item number 23. Under the budget, there's 53, I believe it means to say 53,000 for travel, but I'm not sure if that's what it's referring to. But it also says 27,000 for audit and 50,000 for legal, included in the above budget numbers. Are they included? That's all the emails I've received so far with public participation number 1.
Okay, so, we'll close public participation and we'll go to the agenda. And then if anything else comes in that's not budget related, we can discuss it or we can read it during public participation number 2. All right, so can I have a motion and a second for agenda items for personnel, items 1 through 14?
Motion.
How about a second?
Second.
Okay,
Wait,
What?
hold on. Wait, I'm not gonna, sorry, can you guys hold on a second, please?
Sure.
Okay. I gotta get back to my agenda here, I'm in another email with another thing.
well, I was just gonna ask if anybody has any questions for Chris, so while you're looking for yours, we could start that.
Questions on the agenda?
Items 1 through 14.
Yeah, I had a question on, it kind of went along with, I think they asked it in one of the emails you just read, about the one position, I think the academic coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a supporter of that position. I just didn't know that we were doing that for this year either. I thought this was starting for the 2021 year.
No, I thought I had explained it, and if I didn't, my apologies. I thought I explained it in the curriculum that we wanted to get it rolling as soon as possible because we had recognized there was some needs of students to have that academic and behavior coaches in almost immediately.
Even in this situation though, if we're not coming back,
Yeah, in fact, Ms. Black and I, and there's a sidebar that's attached to it, we agreed on a stipend because the teachers would be meeting with the students in a virtual setting. So we had originally came up with one number, if it was going to be done during the course of the school day, and the teachers were given a prep time, and then realizing that more likely they'd be spending more time, hopefully at least an hour with the students, we came up with a different number. So it's going to be for $40 per hour, and there's a maximum on there as to how many hours they can do it in a week.
Who did you agree with this on?
Ms. Black.
Oh, Judy.
So that way, so the sidebar is there, so that will go into effect, because we do want our students that have those needs to have those needs met as soon as possible.
Oh,
On the
okay.
personnel meeting, you were saying that you were gonna start that to reach out to like the kids who haven't participated on the online schooling and stuff right away, right?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
So once we approve this tonight, we can really, and I think some of the teachers have already started that reach out process, but now we can memorialize it as of tomorrow, now that everything is approved, should everything be approved.
At the personnel meeting, I think you only had 3 teachers at that point though, right? You had 2
Correct.
at elementary and 1 at high school?
Yep, and then we had a couple more that sent in some emails after that, once we had agreed to the pay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. I didn't realize either that we were doing the academic coaches right away. I'm not sure how I feel about doing it right away, honestly, because that was just kind of popped up right now, so.
I assume, Chris, the administrators are going to assign the teachers students and monitor the progress.
Yeah.
Correct, yes. And obviously, if you're looking at the list of the teachers, there's teachers that will work specific with certain students. I think everybody's been right, so I can actually talk about it. But like a good example is Mr. Owens. Obviously will work well with seniors that he works with on a daily basis.
Right.
Just as a good example.
Okay.
So,
Question on number 14, please. What does that position do?
Position 14. Right now, she is filling in as one of our maternity leave, well, not one of our maternity leave for preschool.
Okay,
So she's teaching the class. We could have had her on the last agenda, but we did not, so.
okay.
Her certification just came through.
There you go.
Hey, Chris, you just want to elaborate real quick on the Director of Innovation and Special Projects, since we had so many questions and public participation?
Sure. So I'm proposing the position of Director of Innovation and Special Projects. Obviously, if you've seen the job description, wrote a pretty extensive job description with up to 27 items. But the idea is we'll likely do some administrative shifting. And this person will, as you can see, be more involved in the day-to-day supervising of staff, making sure that our technology is blending in with our instruction, really resetting our professional development right now, which I think we do a good job, but we don't do a great job, so we want to move on with that. I'm just kind of going through the list too, making sure all of our curriculum is up to date, and then ultimately trying to come up with some new innovative ideas, new innovative classes, and just making sure at the end of the day that we are doing things in the best interest of our students. So that's kind of a quick 30-second rundown of the position we've been talking about for a little bit.
So,
I just wanted to add, and you know, to answer anybody's concerns about the position or Judy's concern, it's not a newly created position in the sense that a new hire or there's going to be new money. We're just reallocating administrators, and initially some of us proposed cutting an administrator, and we discussed that several times in the finance committee meeting, and it was voted down to not cut an administrator, and instead we compromised on the new position. But there won't be an additional administrator. It'll still be the same amount of administrators, and that was basically the compromise.
Thank you. That's what I was going to do. I was going to clarify that point exactly.
Well stated.
I also want to say with number 10, it was just talked about with reducing the staff for the elementary phys ed. That was not talked about at personnel. There's multiple things on here that say recommended by superintendent and personnel committee. They were not all individually talked about at our meeting. We mostly went over the non-tenured and the approval of the tenure. But I definitely am not in favor of that, not knowing what our numbers are definitely going to be. So I just wanted to talk about, you know, that everything wasn't individually went over in this personnel meeting, being that we didn't have many of them because of all this chaos too, probably affected some of what we were able to go over.
Chris, that should probably say curriculum committee, because it was discussed at length in curriculum. We went over the schedules.
I was just thinking the same thing, yeah.
Curriculum,
I just want to put it out there that
we don't need another full-time phys ed teacher. 1.5 is more than enough. Half the people wanted 1, the other half wanted 1.5. We compromised on 1.5.
That's fair. That should have said, yeah, maybe we can make that adjustment.
Well, actually, to correct Mary Ann, there were some people that wanted to keep it at a full-time position.
I wanted to, and we did look in depth at the schedule at the last meeting, correct? But there were still questions. We're still waiting on getting those answers back from Mr. Karavinas on that.
So yes, I would change that to curriculum, not personnel.
Okay.
Yeah, we compromised at the 1.5. So some wanted 1 full-time gym teacher, some wanted 2, and we compromised at the 1.5. So I just wanted to clarify, not to call you out, Mary, but
No, that's okay. That's fine.
yeah, I wanted to clarify that point just so everybody listening is aware of that. So.
Yep. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
else, Shel? This is a roll call, right?
Yes. Mr. Blum?
Yes.
Mrs. Cosentino?
Yes.
Actually, before we vote, we do need to make that one change that you had indicated, right, Mr. Karuba, to item number
13.
Yeah, 13.
13?
Under 13, Ms. Bresney is 100%.
And that's IEP driven, correct?
Correct. Well, no, preschool, pre-K.
Oh, pre-K, sorry.
Yep.
So everything up to number 14 is being voted on all at the same time right now?
Yes.
So what if you have a problem with one or two items in these, how do you vote?
No.
I'm new to this, I have no idea.
You can say, I vote yes to everything except items 1, 2, 7, and 3.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
No problem. Anybody else?
So with that, I'm
Alright,
going to start again from the top with Mr. Blum,
Yes.
Mrs. Cosentino,
Yes.
Dr. Zuppeth,
Yes.
Mrs. Duckworth,
Yes, except number 10, no.
Mr. LeBar,
Yes to all, abstain, Bet Fran.
Mr. Lucas,
Yes.
Mrs. Pell,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Steffen.
Yes. Okay, can I have a motion and a second for education agenda items 15 through 20?
Motion.
Second.
All right, questions, comments for Chris?
Just a quick comment on number 15. That motion is at the recommendation of both our attorney and the county Department of Education. That will ensure that our virtual instruction counts towards the 180 days. It does need to be done in a board motion.
Okay.
I had a question about the summer camp, and I know that there was an email about that at the beginning of the meeting. I guess that's a good question. Is the school getting anything for this? For the summer camp?
I have to look into that. That meeting took place quite a bit of time ago, so I can't honestly remember. I wish Joe had actually sent that question ahead of time because I could have went back and looked through the notes. If you want to table that, we can do that, and I can have the answer for the May meeting.
Yeah, I would say table it too, because I had the same question. I was wondering if there's a cost to the district for this.
Yeah. I don't have the answer to that question right now, so it's probably best that we table it.
Okay.
What number is that?
20.
20.
20.
20, okay. That was assuming we would be able to, right, June 22nd?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct, yep. Yeah, assuming that we're allowed to have students back in the buildings at that point.
Mhm.
If that doesn't happen till part-time, like come end of June or July, is it still gonna go, do you know, or?
The plan would be yes. Yeah, the plan would be
Yeah.
yes.
I have a question on 18, the school calendar.
Okay, go for it.
We have 2 letters here that came with the agenda,
Mhm.
in reference more from Hope than anything else about starting the school year or before Labor Day. We have one, that came from the Hope Board of Ed, and we have one that came from Will, president of WCCC. We're only gaining 2 days by opening the school year ahead of Labor Day. Is that really critical, those 2 days? Does it make that much of a difference in the overall school calendar that we couldn't accommodate?
Well, if I say yes, I don't know, you're gonna argue whether it does or does not. I would also say, I don't know that first letter was from the Hope Board of Ed as opposed to the Hope Town Council. Mr. Lucas, I don't think you guys as a Board of Ed wrote a letter, did you?
No, we did not. That was from the town council.
Okay,
Last night, we approved our budget, our calendar with the same as what you're proposing tonight.
so you guys are starting before Labor Day as well?
Correct.
So Hope doesn't care from a Board of Ed standpoint when we start? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, John, but,
We feel that it's better to start when it was suggested.
Okay, I take my question back then. I thought that was Hope, I misread that, I thought it was the Hope, Board of Ed sending that letter.
No, that was more of a town council.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on 15 through 19?
Yeah, I have a question on approving the calendar. There was talk at the personnel committee meeting about if we don't go back to school, about starting sometime in August to start assessments and things on kids. What does that affect? And if we're voting on the calendar now, what does that change? And does that change our ability to start at a certain time and have students there?
We can amend the calendar at any point. It's not a big issue. And I also have the ability to make amendments to the calendar as well.
Okay.
So if, to answer your question, if we had to do that and we had to, whatever that looks like, you know, again, like keep going back to who knows what anything's gonna look like, we can amend the calendar, and that's something we can almost talk about, at each meeting between now and the start of the school year next year. Almost make it a running item, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we might want to just keep it in continuing business.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of, like, if things are going to start getting opened, I'm thinking parents kind of need to know that there's definitely a possibility that August might be a starting point for their kids, because things get open, then they go, oh, well, I'll take that trip I was taking. We could run into some problems come there. Like, the sooner the better to put it out there to parents.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we wouldn't open school for everyone in August. We can't do that by contract. But we would look to do an extended school year that would begin in August. You know, we have to pay a little bit extra for the teachers and things like that. That would be kind of the idea. And make it optional for parents if they want to send their children rather than making them. How does that sound?
Okay.
Can you repeat that? I didn't catch it all.
So the idea, Mr. Blum, would be if we do not return to school this year, and we continue our schooling virtually, and we are on course to return in September, I would be recommending that we do an extended school year for all of our students. Traditionally, we do extended school year for students that are IEP driven. So this would be an opportunity for the parents to have the option to send their students back early. And we would obviously have to pay stipends to the teachers, but we think it would make a big difference just to get a sense of where our students are at and to help catch up students who might have fallen behind in this virtual setting.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Okay, anything else on 15 through 19?
No.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Nay? Not me, but. Abstentions? Okay. Motion and a second for business items 21 through 27.
Motion. Second.
Questions or comments? Shall I think you gotta fix the budget items, right?
Right, so the attachment that I had sent out to the board earlier today, the numbers need to be adjusted as follows. General fund is, with the reserves included, will be $12,025,101. The special revenue number stays the same. The total is therefore $12,598,618. The withdrawal from maintenance reserve becomes $455,000. And we need to add another line under that for withdrawal from capital reserve of $65,000. And I just did want to answer quickly one of the questions from the town council. Yes, those numbers that are listed below, they are within the budget.
Okay, right, yeah, Joe had asked those.
About the line item transfers, he was asking if you could see that or something?
Right, the line item transfers, yeah, that was another point that we can get those posted as well.
Okay, good. All right, any questions on?
Yeah, I had a question on the safety grant for $5,800. Refresh my memory, what are we spending that money on?
The grant, I have to write it yet. Trying to recall, that's through our insurance company, they offer that. And in the past, we've done bleacher safety. It's where we do improvements and then we also, this year, we did tree cutting So
Mhm.
basically, we take an item in the budget that fits within that monetary amount, and
Mhm.
then it fits as a safety item, and then we put it in there. Catherine, if it's okay, I'll follow up with you with what we're proposing to submit for this year.
Yeah, cause
Let you know.
I had concerns with the safety, of Oxford Street. And it was mentioned it's less secure than the high school, so I'd really like to know what we're doing towards security, especially with that $5,800 or any other funds for security, so, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I guess we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
I,
All opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstained on 25 and 26.
Okay. All right, so that moves us over to continuing business.
mhm.
All right, can I just answer, I know Mrs. Pell just asked a question about security, and I know that's something she had emailed, I don't know if it was earlier this week or later last week, I forget when you sent that email, Mrs. Pell. Just real quick, all of the grants that you had discussed, the ROD grants, the illicit law grants, all of that is being pushed back, the due dates to the summer, so we're looking into those to see what kind of security grants we can get, but none of that is being accepted at the moment. So when that comes back online, I will let everybody know and what our intentions are and how to try to get some of that money and then how to use it for security, specifically in Oxford Street.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I have three separate items that kind of fall between continuing business and new business, so I'm gonna let these two lump together right now. If anybody has anything else for new business and continuing business, throw it out now. Okay, the three things I have is, the superintendent's evaluation is due June 30th. So I've asked Chris to go on. The way this works is he goes in and inputs information. It's all done through school boards. And then we go in individually for those new members, and we rate different things on Chris, and you can put comments in, and then school board combines it all, comes out with a summary report, and then we discuss it in an executive session, and then we give Chris's evaluation for the year. We have notoriously never been on time with this. Even last year when it was a CUSAC thing, we should have lost points for it, and we didn't, so we kind of looked out there. So I'd really like to try to push this ahead this year and get this done on time for once. So Chris, I think you're gonna go in tomorrow and start that process?
Yeah, there's just, we just have to clean up, one thing. We have one old board member still on the list, and Mrs. Duckworth needs to be added. So as soon as we get that cleaned up, I'll go in and activate it. I would expect that we'd be able to do that no later than by Friday or Monday the latest. And then, everybody will get an email from school boards to complete the evaluation. And then there's no true specific time frame and when to do that. It's up to Marion to kind of push that forward. So, if you have any questions about that as they come in, just let either Shelley or I know, but we just gotta remove one old board member and put Mrs. Duckworth in so she gets, the evaluation. And then as soon as we do that, we'll put it live.
Okay, once we see when it gets to be live, then we'll decide on a date. I'm thinking I'd like to have the whole thing done by the end of May. Us inputting, because then we still have to compile it, and then we still have to have a meeting about it, and then we still have to give it to Chris. So that gives us a month to get that done, which never seems to happen. So at the moment, I'm shooting for like a May 30th completion date. The other thing I'd just like to comment on, apparently, and this is a little sarcastic, apparently the governor's stay-at-home order is a success because our absenteeism in the district for staff is 0 since this started. So apparently we're doing something right, because nobody takes any days off for sick, nobody takes any personal days off, and nobody takes any vacation days off. The last thing I have, we've kind of been waiting for this. I told you guys we approached our attorney to determine what we can actually say about this whole healthcare issue that we keep getting hit with, and we keep having to be quiet with. So I'm going to read a statement that our attorney has prepared for us of what and this is what we can discuss going forward. So, this is a very difficult time. We have friends and neighbors who are out of work and have no health insurance. Fortunately, our teachers remain employed, are receiving their regular salaries, and have full health insurance benefits. They are working hard to educate our children, and we are proud of them. For the past many months, the union leadership has attacked the board and made misleading statements about employee health insurance that I would like to clear up. We have been characterized as not caring about our employees. Nothing could be further from the truth. The board has acted very reasonably with respect to our staff's health insurance. It has not been dragging its feet. The BEA has been kept fully informed every step of the way when the board changed carriers from Horizon to AmeriHealth. In fact, during the negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement, the board offered the BEA a way the Horizon plan could be kept. The BEA rejected it. BEA members are fully covered for health insurance. They have access to private in the AmeriHealth plan, or they have access to providers in the AmeriHealth plan network, including the National PHCS network, as well as the Pennsylvania hospitals and urgent care centers that were in the Horizon plan, with the same level of benefits they enjoyed before. A fund was set up last year to cover costs incurred by members that would have been covered under the AmeriHealth plan. The board even set up a system permitting BEA members in Pennsylvania to visit the Pocono urgent care centers without any upfront payment at all. Those costs will be billed directly to the district. The only real dispute right now is about the mechanism by which the board will prepay any upfront costs members have under their Horizon providers. The board acted reasonably and created preloaded HRA cards for these expenses. First in November of 2019, which were rejected by the BEA, and then again in March 2020. These cards are available right now. The BEA is refusing its members to use them. The association wants the board to pay for any employee that wants to see any provider in the Horizon network at any time. The board reasonably believes that the reimbursement should only be available for Horizon providers, that the employees use prior to the change in carrier. Under the board's plan, if anyone has a trusted doctor that treated them under the Horizon plan, they can still see them now and use the HRA card to pay the upfront costs. No employer can control what hospitals, pharmacies, or medical provider participates in a benefit plan or chooses not to. In fact, any provider in any carrier plan can choose not to participate at any time. For the association to demand the use of Horizon Network forever is unreasonable. It is the union leadership that is standing in the way. Clearly, the board has not sat on its hands. We have taken several steps to resolve this problem. Remember, no one is being denied coverage. The debate is only about the timing of the reimbursement for the out-of-pocket costs for providers that were in the old network but not in the new. On a night on which we are approving a total budget of $12 million, and while we face the uncertainty of public health and funding crises, no one should, in good conscience, claim that we don't care about our staff. I will have Chris forward this letter to all the board members so you have it at your disposal. Again, we are free to say this. We didn't know what we could say in the past. We now know what we can say. Hopefully this lets the public and some of the teachers know that what we have done and that we don't not care about them. We are trying hard to get them what they need. And at the moment, they can go anywhere they want. Apparently they don't need it because nobody takes any sick days off. So it's kind of a moot point right now. But that might pontificate. Okay, so that covers continuing business and new business. We'll move on to the second public participation because we've passed 7:45. What do you got, Shel?
Okay. I have a question or a comment from, I believe again, this says from Kathy Myers, so from the town. Number one, are the stipend positions for the spring seasons and continuing activities being paid? Number two, what is the approximate savings being realized by the buildings being closed? This would include sub-pay, reduced utilities, cafeteria, etc. And then a follow-up to that was sent under student enrollment. Has the district pursued any study on the reason for the district, let me start that again. Student enrollment. Has the district pursued any study on the reason for the decrease in enrollment? Then I received another one from Mr. Kennedy, public participation number 2. Thank you for your reduction. Although minor, it is greatly appreciated. Along with the reduction of the municipal part of our budget, 5.2, our residents, and then it's cut off, but basically, I believe he's saying, thank you for the reduction, and then he, again, just emailed and said all his questions have been answered, less the camp question. So he's thanking all the board members.
What was Kathy Meyer's second question?
Building savings.
Savings realized because of the shutdown.
Okay.
Did you get it?
Just to comment, while Shelley's looking, we'd have to go back and calculate what some of the savings would be because of the shutdown. We know for sure transportation for sporting events, transportation for field trip events, also referees and umpires for sporting events are absolute savings. We'd have to look at the electric bills and other bills like that just to do a comparison to see how much we've saved there. And yes, we will be paying or at least we intend to pay the coaches stipends. Again, that was part of that mandate that came down from the governor about continuing to pay all the employees.
So what are we gonna do with that savings then? Are we gonna make a board motion since we
Catherine,
didn't?
hang on, we're in public participation.
Oh, okay.
I was just answering because Shelley looked like she was still reading, so I figured
I know.
Oh, okay.
What else, Sal?
I'm just confirming on my computer screen, since it's a little more clear than it is reading them from my phone, that I don't have any other public participation number 2s that were received prior to 7:45.
Okay, so we'll close it and ask all questions you want, Catherine.
Okay, so you answered number 1. Number 2 with the building savings, Shelley, you would have to answer that, but I think that was, the building savings would be, 1 less administrator, correct?
No, she's asking, I think Kathy's question
For the
was,
shutdown right now,
the shutdown, we're saving $40,000 because of less electricity or something like that.
Yeah, you did.
So
Well,
that money we talked about would be partially to fund any of our extended school years that we would need to do for all of our students.
Okay, so we wouldn't be making a board motion by June 30th to move that money that was not spent in the budget or that was allocated in the budget. We wouldn't be moving that to a reserve account like we normally do?
As we discussed in finance, we're trying to eliminate that as much as possible this year.
Yeah, so so you're saying we're gonna use all of the money for this August, optional start, early school date?
I don't know about all of it. We'd have to see how
No,
much it
not at
actually
all.
is. We'd have to see how much it is and what it would cost to run that summer program.
Mm-hmm. Then where does the rest of the money go if we don't move it to reserves and it doesn't all go to the August?
Right, what we talked about in the finance is that we'll try to move ahead any projects and one-time purchases from the 2021 budget, that we'll move them up towards the end of the school year, which is fairly regular practice in some events. We're just gonna try to do that a little more this year, so that we don't have money fall to the reserve.
Yeah, I'm just concerned with the amount of money, because we're already moving money out of the reserve to do that. So now if we talk about money that was saved in the budget that we didn't spend in the 19-20 budget, now we're talking a lot of money that we have to allocate amongst these projects. So, and I'm glad Kathy asked the question, because honestly, I hadn't thought of it. I was focused on the next year, and I hadn't thought about the savings for that. So I'm just concerned it's a lot, but yeah, that's a good question. And then the decrease in enrollment, we have looked at. We've talked about that a lot, but we haven't done an actual study, but we are recommending the feasibility study. Does somebody want to discuss that?
Well, declining enrollment isn't just Belvidere, it's statewide and countywide. I gave you those numbers. I had actually gone to the Board of Ed site and pulled those numbers off. So it's not just Belvidere with declining enrollment, the entire state of New Jersey with declining enrollment.
Well, not only was it discussed, there was an entire committee set up to review it.
Yeah, and basically, we kind of reviewed from what Mary Ann's data was that some schools in Warren County have been decreasing enrollment. Others have either stayed the same or increased. Like Phillipsburg was pretty steady. I think Warren Hills was pretty steady. And I believe Hackettstown and North Warren also had declining enrollment. I do remember we had like 24% decrease in enrollment. And I think the only other place that was close to that, Marianne, I think was North Warren, right?
I'll have to pull those numbers. Peaburg was steady. I don't know if Warren Hills was, and I know North Warren and Hackettstown. I looked at the high schools in the county, but when you also looked at the overall students in the state of New Jersey, that has declined. There's less children in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed in these meetings, just to finish on the schools though, I think I'm pretty sure Warren Hills declined, but only at like 11 or 12%. I'm pretty sure North Warren was close to us at like 24%, and Phillipsburg and one other school, I forget, stayed the same. But we talked about that, and we also talked about, just different factors, and we talked about the academic effects as well, and that's why we're recommending some of these new classes. So that was also proposed in curriculum, and then we did just talk about the fact that statistically speaking, the population growth is declining in Warren County, and people are having less children. So those were all factors, all things that were discussed.
And we did budget for the feasibility study, so we are looking, in that direction.
Part of it's just the way it flows, isn't it? Because, I mean, like, we're looking at the student enrollment for only 4 years. If you look back 10, 20, 30 years, it ebbs and flows. Like, there was times, I've been out of school almost 30 years, and it was 98 kids, and then it was up to 130 per class, and then it goes back down. Like, if I think about it over the years and people I've known in school, it goes from anywhere from barely 400 kids to almost 500 kids on any given 10 or 20 year span. So can't that just be part of it?
It can, very well.
We may see a shift back now because there was a big move towards the city.
Yeah.
Now with the coronavirus, you may see a shift back away from the city.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, those are things that take a couple of years to be realized. So I think you're right, Melissa, in a lot of ways it's an ebb and flow.
Because even years ago, you still had kids going to Blair, you still had kids going to Tech, you had kids going to Peaburg, whatever way they could. So we had that out those years ago too, so that's nothing new, whether it's 2 students or whether it's 10 students for the district. It seems more like just numbers than actual reasons for that many kids to be gone.
But that topic of enrollment has been, discussed at length between just the 2 online curriculum and finance and, what we can do and getting our enrollment up and things like that. So that is, just in response to that email, we are looking at that.
Okay.
Back to finance for a moment. Shelley, how often do we get money from the state?
We receive 2 payments a month. We receive them usually on the 8th and the 20th of the month. Usually the June payments aren't received until July, and it has been indicated so far that the June payments may not be received until September this year.
The June payments may not be received until September, right?
Yes.
So how much would that be?
Correct, Chris?
I think that's what we've been hearing.
Yeah.
Again,
How much would that be?
It's that nebulous what we've been hearing, Mr. Blum, as we talked about in finance. Who knows? But yeah,
Right.
let Kelly go ahead and answer his question.
Shelley, how much would that be if we don't get June's money until September?
Let me just look real quick. It's a little less than 300,000 that we receive a month for Belvidere.
Gotcha. Okay, please keep us informed, so we can expect not to receive that money at this point, correct?
It'll be a receivable at the end of June, as it typically is, and then usually it comes in the first 2 weeks of July. But this year we'll have to wait longer, and I guess it won't be until the governor's second budget address in August before we really get too much more information.
And do you think we have enough cash to, fund the June expenses?
We are okay because of our reserve balances.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
I have new business, if I,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I can?
Yep,
I thought it was continuing business still.
I lumped them both together.
Oh, okay. I kind of wanted to just, address something, that was mentioned in a private committee meeting, because it's something that seems to keep being brought up quite a few times, so I'd like to address it so that we can move past it and work productively as a board. Kind of like the very end said about the health insurance, you wanted to clarify something. So I just wanted to, reiterate what was said. It was said among, not exact quote, but similarly that, I think we need to trust our administrators to do their job, and some of these board members like to micromanage too much. So I just wanted to say that my understanding is that the board oversees the administrators in a typical checks and balance system. So if we're going to defer and not question the administrators, then in fact, we are not doing our job, and that's how I see it. In fact, in my opinion, quite the opposite. There's always room for improvements, and quite frankly, from when I got on the board, I think Belvidere needed them. If some of the board members feel that we should just defer and be silent, then my question to them would be, what suggestions or ideas have you brought forward to improve the district? And I'm going to continue to ask questions. I'm going to continue to try to make suggest new ideas, make suggestions. And so I just wanted to kind of, hopefully we can resolve this and kind of get an understanding of what our role is as a board member, so that doesn't keep getting directed towards some of the board members, and I'm assuming towards me.
Well, the role of the board members, I understand it, is to establish policies and monitor those policies. So clearly we have an oversight role.
Catherine, you can direct it directly at me because that comment was from me. There's no reason to tiptoe around it. I just feel that this board is too involved in the day-to-day actions of a school district. We are oversight. We are not to dictate.
Can you provide examples on how some of the board members are involved in the everyday micromanaging of the administrators or the school?
I'm not going to get into a back and forth here in a public setting. If you want to talk about it, at a committee meeting, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, I don't know that this is really the forum if we're gonna hash this out. I was at that meeting when, Tad made that comment, and in some ways I agree with him, he is correct. In some ways, I disagree. I do think at times we try to micromanage a little more than we should. We're supposed to be an oversight. However, as I said then, trust but verify has always been my motto. So yes, I'm an oversight, but yes, I'm gonna make sure that they're doing their job. I'm not gonna force anything down their throat. I don't think we do. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But we are an oversight committee first and foremost. But we do have to make sure that they're doing their job. That is our responsibility. But if we want to have this discussion, we can pick a committee, probably curriculum.
Mary Ann, can I just jump in? I think this was a good conversation to have when we were going to have school boards come in and talk about ethics.
Yes.
And in fact, I just heard from Kathy Hellewa the other day. She does have some availability in May, so if we wanted to do a special meeting, I think it's a good time to do that.
Perfect. That would be the perfect time to continue this discussion. So get us some dates, Chris, when she's available, and we can get something on the schedule.
You got it. Be happy to.
All right. Anything else? All right. We do have an executive session. So it is hereby resolved that the board will now go into private session to discuss HIB. Any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public as soon as practicable. Minutes of the private session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the closed session. The board will take action following the closed session. Can I have a motion and a second to go into exec?
Motion. Second.
Ron? Okay, so we're we're back out of executive session. I need a motion and a second to approve the February and March 2020 findings without incident as presented by the superintendent. Can I get a motion and a second? Second?
Second.
Okay, so that takes care of that. So we're to adjournment. Can I get a
All in
motion?
favor?
Need to vote on that.
Oh yeah, all in favor, sorry. Shelley, you gotta keep me on track. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, we've just completed our first virtual board meeting. So everybody stay safe and stay healthy.
Be healthy, everyone.